Hey there, welcome to Local Legends. I hope you're doing well. Now, pack your kit and get ready to march at sunrise, because today we'll be exploring the history of Gunners Park. The local legend we'll be talking about today is a touch different from the topics we've tackled in previous episodes. Today we'll be talking about Gunners Park, which you can see behind me. Now, this is a public park, an area of scientific interest, and also a housing estate. Let me tell you though, this park offers a lot more than rare insects and migrating birds. It's housed armies, and it's been the first line of England's coastal defences for literally thousands of years. So, let's have a little walk through time, and on the way, we can discuss more about the history of Gunners Park. Let's go. Firstly, we'll be heading to a place that's come to be known as the Danish Camp, which was reportedly written in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle to be the place where the legendary Viking warlord Halfdan set up camp right here in Shoeburyness. It's a tale of political intrigue and drama from the height of the conflicts between the Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings. Starting in the late 8th century, raids on England became a new and hot trend for up-and-coming Viking warlords. The Thames estuary was a prime target for these raiding parties, as it allowed access deep into the southeast of England. The amount of coastline was difficult to guard effectively, and meant that many Viking invasions of England started here. Thanet in Kent is actually the first place that a Viking raiding party ever hunkered down for the winter in England. If you've ever been there before, you'd probably assume that they never left. We've just made it to what remains of this Danish camp. So what are we actually seeing here? Well, for a start, the name is kind of misleading. Archaeological evidence around the site states that the camp was probably founded around 400 to 200 BC. That's a long time, before the Kingdom of Denmark was even founded. And of course, the most obvious part of the camp that still remains to this day is the mound, which you can see stretching off behind me. Mounds are a classic hallmark of Iron and Bronze Age sites around the country, up there with stone circles and henges. The earthy foundations make a great base of fortification, which was probably necessary in the tribal landscape of the country at the time. This mound in particular must have been built pretty well, because literal thousands of years later, it's still standing. Now, of course, in its heyday, it would have been a lot taller and steeper than it is now, as today, I mean, you can just kind of walk up the side. This isn't stopping an army, is it? But of course, it would have done a lot better of a job back then. So, what exactly was it fortified for? And who is it trying to keep out? As mentioned earlier, a Viking army was said to have set up shop in Shoeburyness, going by the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which is a written account of the comings and goings of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, and of their rivals, the Vikings. Halfdan was a well-known Viking indeed, with his raids stretching from England all the way to the northern shores of the African continent. The Chronicle states that Halfdan and his army fell back to Shoeburyness, as their main HQ in Benfleet was attacked by Anglo-Saxon forces while they were away raiding in Mercia, now the modern-day Midlands. Ian Walker writes in his book, Mercia and the Making of England, that this raid ended with the capture of Halfdan's entire family. That wasn't very ideal for him, was it? Well, with Halfdan still being at this camp, and his family's safety being on the line, he reached out to the Danish kingdoms of York and East Anglia to hopefully get some reinforcements. But going by the history books, this doesn't seem to have panned out, as it wasn't long before he was at the negotiating table with King Alfred. In a similar way to what he did with the famous Viking Guthrum, Alfred got both of Halfdan's sons baptised. This essentially brought Halfdan and his family into Alfred's inner circle, kind of a bit like a Dark Ages version of LinkedIn. Now this, along with the rules of Christianity, was meant to rein in the marauders and their armies. It's a smart play, as it usually worked in the favour of both parties. The Vikings got a permanent position of power in England, while they were also under the thumb of the current Anglo-Saxon monarch. The Danelaw was actually a byproduct of this during the negotiations between Guthrum and King Alfred. Shortly after that, Halfdan was back out raiding the Thames again, using this very camp as a base, So that was all a bit pointless, wasn't it? So, while this example of Anglo-Saxon and Danish international relations was never meant to be, the camp itself which Hastein used was very much real. If the Anglo-Saxons were one thing, it's that they loved to write everything down. The logical candidate for the location of Hastein's base camp was of course here at Gunners Park. And that's how this mound, dating back to even before the time of the Roman Empire, was given the name the Danish Camp. You can almost imagine seeing the masts of the Viking longboats off into the distance. And behind me, the ramshackle defences and walls of the fort. The smell of wet mud and sweet mead wafting in the air all around you. But as alluded to by the buildings behind me, this area has been used by armies long after the Vikings. In that time, empires have risen and fallen, and warfare has moved way past ramshackle defences and mounds. And that's where the legend of Gunners Park will continue, in part 2, where we'll be discovering its wartime importance and how that changed the landscape we can see around us. Well, I'll see you there. Ta-ra!